Today in the news, it's the CPU safari. We got Threadripper, Renoir, and a possible Comet Lake sighting. What's up guys, I'm Snows, and this is your boot sequence. 2 weeks ago, we saw our first look at a 3rd gen Threadripper CPU. It was found on userbenchmark by apisak and featured a base clock of 3.6 GHz and a boost of 4.05 on average. We don't really know where this product places itself on the stack, but we're assuming it's the lowest end CPU, which could be followed by either a 24 or a 32 core Threadripper SKU. Well, now we got our first look at what looks like a higher end Threadripper 3000 part, this time with 32 cores. This one was spotted by Momomo US on Geekbench, and the performance is just incredible. Now I know Geekbench isn't the best place to measure performance, but we can at least do some crude comparisons. There are 2 different scores for the new part though. One with a single core score of 5932 and multi of 93,344, and another with a single core score of 5677 and a multi of 94,772. Tom's Hardware compared it to one of the many benchmarks available for the 2990WX, and we get something close to 5% faster on single core and 14% on multi-core. The problem here is that those are 2 different versions of the Geekbench benchmark, and there are so many different benches for the 2990WX with wildly different scores that we can't really make an accurate comparison. All we know is that the base clock of 3.6 GHz is much higher compared to the old 32 core, which was 3.0 GHz, and that you get double the L3 cache on the new chip. Since Threadripper 3000 will be based on Zen 2, there's no doubt that it will beat out pretty much anything Intel has to offer in the HEDT space. I just hope AMD doesn't get carried away with pricing. Moving on, but also with AMD, our first look at a Zen 2 based APU seems to have popped up in the open source display drivers. Unfortunately, if you were hoping to see an APU paired with Navi graphics in the next gen, you might be disappointed. Phoronix found a Renoir mention in the drivers. Renoir is the follow-up to Picasso, which should be introduced next year as a 4000 series Ryzen APU. Looking at the driver, it shows GFX V9, which is an indication of Vega graphics. If this was a Navi chip, the mention would be GFX 10. Back in April, we covered about the same story, but we didn't have explicit information about Navi. Now that Navi is out though, we can confirm that Renoir will probably be stuck with Vega. What I find interesting about the Renoir APUs is that it will be based on the Zen 2 chips. That means the integrated graphics will probably sit in a chiplet form factor. Since chiplets are technically modular compared to the monolithic die of current APUs, this means we could see a Navi chip in there. It just might not be a Renoir APU. What do you guys think? Moving on to Intel, we got another CPU spotted. Damn, it's truly a blessed day to go CPU hunting. Anyways, we got our first look at what seems like a Comet Lake CPU. Comet Lake is what should be their 10th generation of mainstream desktop chips, and it's still based on the 14nm process. The Geekbench page shows a Dell Precision 5820 tower with a 10-core 20-thread CPU. There's a lot of conflicting info though. The package shows socket 1151, and their previous leaked Intel slides were showing a new socket for Comet Lake called LGA 1200. It also shows Skylake X as the codename, which is LGA 2066, and Dell also tends to use Xeon processors for their Precision Tower, so the info on there is quite mixed up. Besides that, the only other info we got is the clock speeds, which is 3.4 GHz base and 4.6 boost, which is way further than the 9900K for example. Whether this is Comet Lake or not, it's not that impressive given a 3800X, which is 8 cores, scores around the same points on Geekbench. I'm personally really interested to see what Intel will do in response to AMD's super successful Ryzen 3000 series. Lastly, I just wanted to clear something up about Monday's video. In it, we talked about AMD's blog post that contains some explanation on GPU temperature readouts. Some of you were not too happy with the fact that AMD said that 110 degrees Celsius is expected and within specs. Some of you even thought that 110 degrees Celsius was just the limit temperature and that no GPUs would ever reach it. And while it is the point of throttling, AMD did say that a GPU running at up to 110 degrees Celsius on the hotspot is fine, and it is. AMD actually shows you what the hottest temperature is on the die. The average temperature of the GPU is also shown and is the the usual metric we go by. On NVIDIA cards, you don't get that information, so the hottest part of the die is much higher than the average shown on your monitoring software. The hottest part might be at 110 degrees Celsius for an RX 5700 XT, but the average temperature could be closer to the high 80s, which is fine. So I'll just say what I said on the last video. If you have a Navi GPU running hot on the hottest part of the die, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Unless you're actually experiencing major slowdowns because the card drops down in clocks and the temperatures hike, you're gonna be fine. Anyways, guys, this is pretty much it for the news today. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you got any comments or questions, leave them down below, although I still have to go through all of Monday's comments. As usual, you can click right here to see the latest video right here to subscribe to the channel. Stay frosty, my dudes, and I'll see you on the next one. It's a good day. Today it's not too hot, it's not too cold. I really like the temperature. I'm feeling myself. It's nice. It's very nice.